I broke through the carbonate, that's how I got free. Drop it back off because there's no stopping me. Postmodern player, sample-tastic, flows frastic. I get drastic, hey, watch the plastic. Yo, I name check and leave you drastic.
Welcome to the MacGuffin, episode 152.
Yeah.
I'm Spencer.
I'm Greg.
Today we're going to be talking about a little nobody who's in some little schlubby film that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
Will Smith.
Yeah,
Men in
maybe
Black
you've heard
3,
about him.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess he's some sort of musician.
I guess there were two before this one.
Yeah.
If it's the third one, but...
He's some sort of musician turned actor, whatever that's all about. I'm not going to try and think too much about, but in all seriousness, he probably is like arguably the most famous dude in the world or something like that.
Probably in the top list there. Yeah.
He's the most bankable actor, I think, in film history. Everything he does makes like $100 million. So
Even Hitch?
I believe even Hitch. But good on you for that, Will Smith. Mm-hmm. If I could make $100 million a film, I would be pretty psyched.
Yeah, definitely. If I could make a film, I'd probably be pretty psyched.
maybe our problem is we're not Scientologists.
I'm sure that there's probably at least one faction of people in America or in the world that think that that's the case, and that's Scientologists.
They think that's our failure?
Yeah, I think that our problem is that we're not.
So if you are a Scientologist and you are watching this, let us know what we can do to improve this.
Get rid of our Thetans, Spencer.
Is it the midichlorians? I don't know. Star Wars?
Equally bad sci-fi. Yes.
Oh, snap. We're going to go back a ways, though, with Will Smith and go back to his first real break on the scene.
Yep.
The Fresh Prince of BelAir. That little TV show from back in the day.
Mm-hmm. You might have heard of it.
About a guy from West Philadelphia, born and raised on the playground who spent most of his days chilling out.
I'm out. I'm not letting you get through that whole song, Spencer. Not today.
Anyway, it's about a kid from Philadelphia who moves in with his family in Beverly Hills.
Yes.
Oil.
I think Spencer's losing it.
Yeah. Probably
or lost it.
Probably more of the latter than the former.
Yeah.
But this is a show, about a kid who's trying to adapt from, a lower class
inner city
youth to a more affluent adult grown up world.
Coast.
And
beach.
And obviously Fish Out of Water is always a classic trope that plays well. And Will Smith, I wouldn't say the show was great, but Will Smith is a very, very charming guy.
Oh, yeah, and I watched the heck out of it.
Yeah, it was very
right
funny
at that
show.
right time for me, too.
Let's see, it's 96, or 90 to 96.
Yep.
So I was about 8 when this started, and was 14 when it ended. So yeah, I watched quite a bit of this. This was probably during my wheelhouse. The Carlton. All these great people. I remember learning about Nia Long and Tyra Banks from the show before they were big actresses.
They definitely started bringing in a lot of the celebs and in the later seasons, swinging them through.
This is noted. Will Smith began his career as the Fresh Prince. That was his musical moniker.
Yes.
And there's definitely a lot of that in this show because he brought DJ Jazzy Jeff with him as a supporting character who appeared in 42 of the 147 episodes, which is
only 42. Wow,
surprising.
Got thrown outside in every one.
I guess so.
Same footage.
Yeah. So there definitely was sort of that growth from past to future Will Smith all within this. And it's funny, I think about this in some ways, it's sort of like a cheesy sitcom that I liked, but it actually got a fair amount of respect, getting 2 Golden Globe nominations for Will Smith, both in 93 and 94. So he
middle run.
Yeah, he was respected for his work on this. And, he composed the theme to the show, which became a repeating thing for him as he began his movie career as well.
Yes, true.
So, I still watch The Fresh Prince every now and then. Don't watch it really regularly, but I do have a soft spot in my heart for it. So,
Jeffrey.
Let us know. Yeah.
Gotta love Jeffrey.
Oh, the Jeffrey, the Carlton. I love the Carlton. Alfonso Ribeiro. It's always funny for me when I see him on TV and stuff like that. So I definitely appreciate that. Towards the latter part of the run of Fresh Prince, though, Will Smith started to try and change his image, and one of the most controversial in some ways series that he's been involved with is Bad Boys. He did the first Bad Boys in 1995, and you know, Bad Boys is one of those things that that people either love or hate. Yeah. Take a guess who's who. Let's just say it's directed by Michael Bay.
Yeah.
I feel like that should give you a pretty big clue.
Put the lightning bolt right down between us with that statement.
Yeah, Jerry Bruckheimer. But I think, you know, the Flash is definitely there as much as any Michael Bay film in terms of like it feeling like a music video in some ways. But I just really think it's a fun film. I think Martin Lawrence and Will Smith have great chemistry together.
I will agree they do.
I think that
It's just everything they do with that chemistry that bothers me.
Oh, I think it's totally entertaining. It's got some great supporting roles. You know, Joe Pantoliano plays a great role as the chief. You have
Good old
Marge
Joey
Helgenberg as the Internal Affairs person, I believe, who's sort of sweating their backs in this, yelling at them. You have Taya Leone back when she was moderately
Known
famous.
for anything?
Yeah. Before she was like famous for marrying David Duchovny, I guess. You know, she did some stuff. I'll give her credit. She was, you know, Awful Truth, stuff like that. She did some stuff, but I very much enjoy the film, and it was sort of a great template for part of Will Smith's strategy going forward. Because in terms of like you think about movie stars, Will Smith is probably one of the most calculated movie stars in what he does. You know, becoming an action star. There's a lot of money to be made as an action star. Doing series that he makes sequels of, giving fans what they want. There are multiple Bad Boys thus far, and he's already in discussions to play and be involved in a third Bad Boys in the next couple years. Yes, please, I say. Yes, please. You know, it got a few nominations, Best On-Screen Duo and Best Action Sequence from the MTV Awards, which makes sense considering Michael Bay was an MTV darling, as is Will Smith. But, you know, I enjoy it. I will say I enjoy it, and I will be the one defending it as a guilty pleasure, suppose.
You will.
But somebody's got to do it.
And that gets to be you.
Yes. Continuing on in that sort of calculated planning, though, he did Men in Black, the original, a few years later, which had the Will Smith career change from Fresh Prince to Will Smith as a musician.
Yes.
He did the song before the movie, which became a thing for him for a while, and it really changed his persona as a musician from, you know, Fresh Prince to Will Smith. But he really embraced his comedic roots from the Fresh Prince, which is sort of one of the other areas. There's sort of three real areas that he's tried to succeed in: comedy, serious dramas, and action. And he's done a good job in balancing his performance in all of them. And he's done stuff like sequels that have made, you know, people who liked one or the other really engaged and continue watching them, which made hundreds of millions of dollars for all of them.
Yes,
Men in Black.
very bankable.
Men in Black, directed by Barry Sonnenfeld, which I need to correct and say it's not directed by Barry Levinson. I keep confusing that. Barry Levinson, Diner. Barry Sonnenfeld, Men in Black. Big Trouble, Get Shorty, RV.
You are fired.
I know. Wild Wild West.
Ugh.
Yeah. So, anyway, this is a story about a guy who gets brought into a group that deals with aliens, though they try and do it covertly without the general populace knowing.
Keeping the populace from knowing that alien life exists.
It's part of that sort of smallerish genre of alien comedies. Don't really feel like you get too many alien comedies. Usually when they're aliens, they're either like horror or they're negative action films like Independence Day, which he was also in.
Yeah, there's Mars Attacks.
Yeah, I mean, they still have a negative intent there as well. Yeah.
But still comedy.
It's still comedy. You have like Space Invaders, you know. So there are definitely some out there.
Yeah.
But usually aliens not the laughing stock of the world. So
based on a comic book originally.
Yes. And it's got a few great things for it. Danny Elfman is a composer on it, which is great. Tommy Lee Jones was the great straight man opposite Will Smith as Agent K. You have Linda Fiorentino, who was great as sort of like the female lead of the movie and sort of like the counterpoint to Will Smith, and both of them are trying to understand this Men in Black world. Unfortunately, she didn't carry on as the series went on. And Vincent D'Onofrio is sort of like the villain of the movie, who's awesome. Vincent D'Onofrio is just a great actor.
Oh, yeah. He had a lot of really good roles that in the late 90s that he really kind of busted out with.
And you got to give a shout out to Rick Baker and David Leroy Anderson, who won the Academy Award for Best Makeup for this film.
Yeah, the special effects. This was one of those movies that was really a special effects machine, and the fact that special effects were so good is part of why it was so successful, in my opinion.
Sadly, the sequel, not so good. No. Not so good. So we're just going to skip over that and come back to 3 later.
Yeah.
One that you wanted to talk about, which I think was a great suggestion, was Enemy of the State.
Yes.
The Tony Scott directed action film about a guy who gets caught up in a government conspiracy, and then, they want to kill him.
Yeah.
Which kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
kind of a downer.
A little bit.
And he fights back essentially against the government to try and clear his name and get the conspiracy out there and all that good stuff. You had Will Smith teaming up with Gene Hackman to fight back against Jon Voight, who is a great villain, very menacing dude. Like, ugh,
I also love the nice nod to the conversation with Gene Hackman essentially looking like and playing a very similar role to his character from the classic. I think there's actually a specific reference in there, but I forget what it is at the moment.
It's just a fun film,
I love neat satellite tracking and early.
Oh, I think that was one of the first films to start paranoiding people.
Yeah.
About that is that like it really is like. This is before Google was like a thing where you could zoom in to look at people. Like this put in the people's ideas that satellites could zoom in
literally
and
watch
see where you are
doing. Yeah.
And I gotta give a special shout out to Jason Lee, who was in this film well before he was like a real big star, well before My Name is Earl and all that kind of stuff. This is like early days of like his work with Kevin Smith and stuff.
Yeah.
So to have him play an important role in the movie, granted it's an abbreviated one for certain reasons.
Yes.
But it was
probably pieced together.
Yes. But it was a really fun role, and to have him go opposite Will Smith is just crazy.
Yeah.
And I guess, you think about it 15 years later, now that they're both Scientologists, maybe you really do need to start looking into that more.
Yes.
Midichlorians, what was it again? We need to get some of those. We need to get some Thetans.
No, you need to get rid of Thetans.
Yeah. We need to get rid of Thetans.
God.
I need to watch that South Park episode again.
Or just, laugh your way through Battlefield Earth.
Yes, I could do that, but I don't want to. So we're going to move on, that being said, into the third box that we mentioned before, the action, the comedy, and now we're on to the drama.
Yes.
He did what Jim Carrey did sort of in the mid portion of his career, where he's like, I want to win an Academy Award.
Yeah, yeah.
And he really started pushing on that, proving that he wasn't just, a funny guy or an action star.
Exactly.
He actually was a talented actor, sort of flipping back to those Golden Globe nominations with The Fresh Prince. And he starred in Ali from director Michael Mann, based upon the life of Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
He really bulked up.
Cassius Clay.
Yes, he really bulked up to play the role. It dealt with, Simon Cassius Clay, his avoidance of the military service, his transition to Muhammad Ali as he adopted Islam as his religion. Like, it was a really interesting film on a lot of levels. I didn't love the film. I felt like it was
Why
little...
was that, Spencer? Do tell.
I just didn't feel like it really cohesively flowed. The story didn't really smoothly go throughout it. It felt like they're trying to hit several points of importance.
Biography.
But you don't have to hit everything in a person's life in a movie.
You don't?
No.
Oh man, my 31-year-long movie should probably be edited down a little bit.
Yeah, probably. I think he was very solid as Muhammad Ali, but it just, I didn't love it, and maybe it's just, I don't know. I can't even really explain how I didn't love it, but I did not feel like the film was smooth in the way it told the story of Muhammad Ali. It felt like it just sort of dragged in some parts, and
fair enough.
there was some cool stuff, like his fight with George Foreman, Rumble in the Jungle, his dealings with Malcolm X, stuff like that I really liked. But I feel like it was a little unbalanced ultimately, and that was sort of what dragged it down for me. But, both him and Jon Voight got nominated for Academy Awards, so they got to be doing something right.
Yeah.
Michael Mann's a pretty talented guy.
He is.
Just saying.
It's true.
Continuing on the dramatic side of the coin, again, shooting for the Academy Award, Will Smith did The Pursuit of Happiness. Again, another true story based on the life of Chris Gardner, who was a guy who had a family, whose family sort of fell apart. He ends up being homeless and trying to take care of his son at the same time, and they're struggling for survival, and ultimately he connects with a investment firm, I believe it is, and he gets a job there sort of through the side door and works his way up and, finds happiness.
Hooray!
Yeah, hooray! But it's interesting because his son, Jaden Smith,
his
actual son, Jaden Smith, played his son in the movie as a kid. And it was a very entertaining film. I mean, it was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Performance for him as well. But again, it felt a little bit too forced. Like, it felt like this is, again, sort of like Jim Carrey, where it felt like he was really, really pushing to get that Academy Award, and he was not necessarily just getting parts. Like, sort of like, The Truman Show was great, didn't get the Academy Award for that, so he then tried to do Man in the Moon. It was sort of why am I not getting an Academy Award for Man in the Moon? And I think Man in the Moon is fine, but I don't love Man in the Moon. And it's similar like this, like Ali was a great film, but sort of like, why didn't I get an award for that? I'm going to do this. Why am I not getting awards? And I feel like, once you sort of take the foot off the gas, perhaps it's when your greatest work comes, because Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind happened to Jim Carrey after that.
It's true.
And sadly, he didn't win an award for it, but it's still a great film that everyone has beloved. And I don't think anyone looks at the Will Smith dramatic stuff necessarily quite to that level. Like, I don't know anyone who's like, Ali is my top 20 for the 2000s or something like that. So
same with Pursuit of Happiness.
Definitely not. But it's directed by Gabriele Muccino, who also directed 7 Pounds, which I feel like is an even more extreme version of Will Smith pushing to get an award. So, Will Smith, you're great. Don't sweat it, man. You're going to get it someday. You're still a very young dude. You're going to get it. Don't worry. I guarantee it. So, sweat it. Which brings us to another one that you wanted to discuss, which was I Am Legend.
Yes.
Based upon the book I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, which was made into several different films, including, Omega Man.
With Charlton Heston.
This was the Will Smith version of it, which visually, very beautiful film. A lot of great
had so much
visual effects. Sadly, it ultimately backed off the original ending of I Am Legend, which was a really dark twist to the story, and tried to sort of paint Will Smith as the hero. I'm saddened by that. They've talked about doing a sequel or a prequel to this, because obviously you can't do a sequel. But it was so close to being a great film. Like, I really, really like this film, and I really liked where they're going with it.
This is one of those things that's like, took the idea of post-apocalyptic like lifestyle and shot it well and had good dramatic tension and had good moments, but then ultimately tried to say, but in post-apocalypse, the good guy wins. No, in post-apocalypse, usually everybody loses.
And that's the problem, though, is because, like, I feel like,
especially when you're taking from a source material and you're going to change the ending, that in the first place, like, when you have a book that's already been made into a movie and it's classic in some sense, and you're going to change the ending, come on, really?
Yeah. The thing about it is, there's sort of two ways they could have gone with this, I see. The first way is the way that they did go, which was treating it as an action film. And, Will Smith, you have $150 million in this film. It's kind of a big gamble. So you really want to make sure you make money, and the classic Will Smith action star movie ends with a positive ending. The other side you could have gone is the dramatic take, perhaps go for that Academy Award and take it to that dark place, take it a little bit further. And you don't get a lot of $150 million dramatic films. So I feel like they probably made the conservative gamble with it, but it's unfortunate.
Which is the problem is with a lot of these movies that need a huge budget, is that to get the huge budget, they have to please all the right people, and that usually means making it bankable rather than making it necessarily good or a piece of cultful art, or etc. So
it made almost $600 million though, so I don't think they're really giving two craps about what we said.
I know. I feel like this movie was just so forgettable. Like after people saw it, like it just.
I really like the first half or 2/3 of this movie. I thought was awesome, and I know, like and like the whole part with his dog, that's just still amazing. And there's the entire opening, 20 minutes of the movie is just beautiful. There's all these things going for it. I just feel like when you're dealing with that theme, like dread and the hopelessness of it all is a huge thing, and to try to make it hopeful just based on a single person's action when all of society is messed up, no matter how important that person is, unless they actually 100% fix everything upon their death, it's not irrelevant. You lose your thematic strength. You're just like, oh, build up all this tension, and then but he's a good guy. No. It's a bummer that they went there, but I still maybe someday they'll go back and re-edit it. I don't know. Maybe they can do something.
They filmed the actual original ending, and they have it on
the DVD.
On one of either the releases or just online, and it's so powerful that you're like, why didn't they go with this? What were they doing?
Maybe we can start a campaign to retroactively fix DVDs.
People have tried to say, put it out, release, and they're like, well, no, because the one we made enough money. Why would we want to ruin it with a different ending?
For shame. Anyway, that brings us to this Friday, the 25th of May. Men in Black 3 is coming out, the threequel to Men in Black.
Which I feel is a cash grab.
Oh, totally. Which is funny, though, because, if they were really smart, they probably would have. I guess it was smart to leave some distance between the awful Men in Black 2 and now, but it's pretty far after that, so.
Yeah. Considering the second one was 2 years after the first one or something?
Yeah,
fast.
It's pretty short. So this is Will Smith as Agent J going back in time to save the life of Tommy Lee Jones, Agent K. Young Tommy Lee Jones, played by Josh Brolin. Looks like he does a pretty good Tommy Lee Jones impression. That being said, nothing really in the trailer makes me excited for this film. Yeah. I really watch that trailer and cringe.
Yeah.
I can't get enthusiastic for it.
It just looks like, the same basic gags.
Oh, totally. Justin Bieber's in this film, Lady Gaga's in the film. And it's going to be a joke about them being aliens.
Oh, of course.
You just know it.
Yeah. Or him hoping and then they're not, or who cares? Who cares?
Come on now.
You take the same basic side gags of person turns out to be an alien and beats up Will Smith and throws his green screened character around the screen, but then he prevails, but he probably, most likely, gets covered in some kind of goop, and then he makes people forget it. There you go.
Write in your predictions of what Men in Black 3 will be like. I'd love to hear some of them if somebody's clever enough to do that.
I would like to be optimistic and say that maybe because we don't see much about the plot other than the basic premise, that some interesting stuff is going to happen and they can't show it without revealing a lot. Crazy, amazing, epic stuff. But I would think if you're making this movie come out this late after the second one, you would do the marketable thing, as much as I hate it, and show all those things in the trailer to try to sell more people. If it had crazy space battles and stuff you were keeping for plot reasons, you'd want to show them, even if it was...
That would be interesting, but the problem with that mentality is then you're selling a film based on the crappy parts, and that seems like a very bad idea. I don't think anyone wants to do that. So.
Agreed. Yeah.
Anyway, let us know your thoughts about this Men in Black and all of the Men in Blacks at MacGuffinPodcast.com. Stay tuned next week for episode 153 and our DVD rundown for the week of May 29th.
Already almost.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Don't remind me.
Let us know all your feedback at MacGuffinPodcast.com, Twitter.com/MacGuffin. MacGuffinCast, Facebook.com/MacGuffin Podcast. Phone number 323-761-9842. We're on iTunes. We're on Blip. We're on Miro. We're on Roku. Check in. Get glue. And leave us reviews. We love you for it. See you next time.
We love you long time.
No.
can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. Magneto can't stop me, I'm on fire tonight. Even Zod can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. It's tight, don't even try to bite the side style. Mr. Spock can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. The Wrath of Khan can't stop me, I'm on fire tonight. The Borg can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. Because I've got space game and it feels alright.